Hi, welcome to my channel. This is Gurpreet Singh. Today I'll explain and simplify the seller representation agreement for you, which is a Form 200. And the first and foremost, we have to explain to the seller what is multiple listing service agreement and exclusive listing agreement, because they will be choosing either one of them. So the basic difference between the multiple listing service agreement and the exclusive listing service agreement will be if they choose the multiple MLS agreement, the property will be listed on the MLS site. And if they choose the exclusive listing agreement, the property will not be listed on the MLS site. Rather, it'll be an exclusive agreement with the brokerage. So the brokerage will bring the buyer. Nobody will have access to that property. On the other hand, if they choose the multiple listing service agreement, and then it will be listed on the MLS, and anyone from different brokerage can bring the buyer for the property. So this is the basic difference between multiple listing service agreement and exclusive listing agreement. Most of the time they choose the MLS agreement. So we need the seller's initial, whichever service they want to choose. And on this, there'll be an agreement between the brokerage. And so the brokerage name will go up here, and the telephone number of the brokerage, and the legal name of the seller, which you will be getting from when you will verify their identity, and the property in this section, address of the property will go up here. So on this section, it'll explain when the agreement will be started and when it will be ending. So it's basically the commencing date up here. And if it's more than a 6 month, then we need seller's initial in this section. The listing price will go up here, and we have to write both the numbers and the digits of the listing price up here. And in this section, we'll need the initial of the sellers, because the seller hereby will be represent and warrant that they have not listed their property with any other brokerage. So now we'll be explaining all the pre-written clauses up here. The first one is definition and interpretation, so which basically means who will be referred to as the seller and buyer in the remainder of the transaction. For example, the seller will be represented by a vendor, and the buyer will be represented by a purchaser. So the next one is commission. So this section basically declares the total fees the seller has agreed to pay to the brokerage, and it could be either a percentage or any other value, like a certain amount, depending on whatever the negotiation between the brokerage and the seller. So that has to be go up here, and on this section, what will be the cooperating brokerage will be getting out of the transaction. Now, the percentage of the cooperating brokerage is different for each city depending on the bylaws of the city. So some cities has a 2% as a bylaw, the cooperating broker must get 2%, or some cities like Toronto has a 2.5% as well. So the holdover period goes up here. It is the number of days the brokerage is entitled to their fees after the contract has been expired. So for example, let's say a buyer has seen the property in the contract period, but he didn't buy that property. But after the contract has been expired, that the same buyer came to the seller to do the private deal. If it's in the holdover period, then the seller is obligated to pay the remuneration to the brokerage. Then the initial of listing brokerage and the initial of seller goes up here. Now the next one is representation. So in this section, we have to explain to the seller that the multiple representation can occur in the offer process, which means when both the buyer and seller are represented by the same brokerage in the same transaction. That's basically called the multiple representation. So there are certain obligations when the multiple represent situation is occurred. So this I already explained in my last previous video, so please go check out that video as well. So one important thing to note in the multiple representation situation is that the consent of both the buyer and seller has to be needed to proceed in the multiple representation situation, and these are the obligations of that multiple representation situation. So the next one is finder's fees, which basically means that the seller acknowledges and give consent to the listing salesperson that he can receive a referral fee from the mortgage company, which and this will be on top of the remuneration as well. So this is all about the finder fees. And the next one is the referral of inquiries, so which basically means that if anybody asks the seller about privately that whether they have listed the property on sale, all these referral of inquiries has to be redirected to the listing brokerage. So the next one is marketing, which basically means the seller has given permission to the listing brokerage to place a for sale sign on the property and a sold sign on the property as well, and also give a permission to the listing brokerage that they can advertise the property according to their policy. Any errors will not be a seller will not be liable for any errors made in the property in the advertisement of the property. Number 7 is warranty. So this confirms that the people signing this agreement are all the individuals necessary to give authority to sell the property. The provision goes on to confirm the disclosure of third-party claims such as easement, mortgages, encumbrances, and so on. And the next one is indemnification and insurance. So this following section provides that the salesperson cannot be held liable for the condition of the property or damages that may occur, during the open house probably or while they're prospecting buyers view the property. So the next one is the Family Law Act. So this section states that in the form of a warranty that if spousal consent is required, then the spouse has to sign it. So that means, which basically means that if the house is a matrimonial house, then the spousal consent is required. Number 10 is the verification of information. The following section gives the salesperson the authority to obtain and use any reasonable information regarding the property to help market the property. That is, salesperson can get the mortgage details, the tax information, how much is the property tax is going, things like that. So salesperson can verify these information to help marketing the property. So the next one is use and distribution of information. So this section basically gives the salesperson the right to get the details of the property, and the salesperson assures the seller that this information will not be distributed to any third party professional. So like probably the pool or moving company. In this section, the salesperson has to ask the seller to initialize here whether they want to get the call from the other company to relist the property in case the property is not sold with this listing agreement. So the next one is successor and assign. So this state that here's estate trustees or any other third party legally acting on behalf of the seller must also abide by the terms of this agreement. Number 13 is conflict or discrepancy. So which basically means if there are any other schedule or additional information added to this agreement by the parties involved that contain something specific that contradicts what is pre-written in this form, then the information on the attachment or supersede what is on the form. So the number 14 is electronic communication. So this means that if this agreement has been sent by electronic means, but this agreement still be binding and it's legal and confirmed. Number 15 is electronic signature. So before July 1st, 2015, electronic signature was used only for the listing agreement for the seller and the buyer. But as of July 1st, 2015, agreement of purchase and sale can use the electronic signatures as well. But both the parties, both the seller and the buyer has to agree to use the electronic signature in the agreement of purchase and sale. Here's the salesperson representing the listing brokerage has to sign here with the date and the name of person of the listing brokerage goes up here. Again, this is all the sellers signatures of all the sellers with the date and the telephone number goes up here. And in this section, the salesperson declared that they have insurance as it is mandatory by the REBA. which is a Real Estate Business and Brokerage Act. So this is the acknowledgement section where the seller acknowledged that they have fully understand the terms of this agreement and have received a copy of this agreement. So they will sign up here and put the date up here. So that's it for this form. This is our listing agreement form 200. Let me know if you have any question regarding this form. I'll be more than happy to help you out. So that's it for this video. If you like the video, hit the like button, comment below in the comment section, and please subscribe to the channel.